chambers, would you please make sure that your cell phones are silenced? And if you're attending via Zoom, we'd ask you to please remain muted unless you're called upon to speak. And I know some of you are here to speak to different issues that are before the Plan Commission tonight. So when I recognize you at that point, you can unmute. All right, if everyone's ready, we'll go ahead and get started. The Plan Commission of the City of Glendale is now in session. I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Karen, would you like to lead us in your last meeting?
Oh, you bet.
Okay.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. The cleaning people keep tucking it back in the corner. So, all right. All right. We had the minutes sent out from our meetings held on February 2nd and March 1st. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Seligman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nelson. Any corrections to the minutes? Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Commissioner Cohn.
Have two approvals.
Okay, you need to use your microphone.
I'd like to make a motion that we
The
have
light's
two.
not.
We have two separate votes
Okay,
because some people were one and not the other.
okay. So Commissioner Seligman, would you be willing to change your motion to just adopting February 2nd minutes?
Yes, in fact, and I'll abstain from the next one.
Okay, and then Commissioner Nelson?
Yes.
Okay, so we're moving the February 2nd, has been moved by Commissioner Seligman and seconded by Commissioner Nelson. All those in favor of adopting the February 2nd minutes, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Minutes carry, or motion carries. Oh, abstention was who? Who wanted to abstain?
And for the next one.
Okay, and you wanted to abstain for the next one as well. Okay. All right, now can I have a motion on the March 1st minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Bailey, seconded by Commissioner Cronwell. Any discussion? All in favor of adopting the March 1st minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Abstentions?
Abstention.
Abstention from Commissioner Seligman and Commissioner Cohn. All right, minutes of both. We will now move on to our 5 items of new business this evening. The first item of new business is a specific implementation plan, discussion and possible action for a specific implementation plan for a planned unit development district for Devo Properties, River Park Apartments, 1616 West Bender Road. This was a project that was before us several months back that we approved, and now they're back with the specific implementation plan. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Fellows, our Director of Development, for your recommendation.
I'll just briefly go over it. Essentially, it's very similar to what you have saw before. They've basically provided a more detailed landscaping plan, more detailed lighting plan, and provided more architectural information in terms of the building, but it's very substantial to the general development plan that you saw a few months ago. So I know
Just need to make sure you're speaking directly into the
all
mic.
right, I'll get really close.
Yep.
The applicant is actually on the Zoom call. If you have any questions for him, I don't know if he wants to actually do a presentation, but we can dive deeper if you'd like.
Okay, so essentially though, it is the project that was before us before. There's just more detail now in the specific implementation plan. And as you've reviewed it, you find it to be in compliance with what we've already approved. We just need to adopt the details now.
Correct. So the process is you get the adopted general development plan, and then there's the specific development plan, and then there's a development agreement. So the next step is after you make your take your action this evening is to go to City Council, and then the development agreement does not come back to Planning Commission. It just goes directly to City Council. So those would be the next steps. And then after he completes those 2 actions, we'd be able to issue building permits and start to see the building transform.
Okay. I'll open it up then to members of the commission. Do you have any questions you want to ask of staff or of Mr. Dvorkin? Commissioner Cromwell?
Mr. Dvorkin,
Your microphone's not on. The red light should be off.
Mr. Dvorkin, I was wondering, unfortunately, there weren't any color mock-ups of your schemas. And I'm just wondering, is that something that would be easily presentable to us? It's hard to envision what is going to be visually present.
Greg, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Could you repeat the question, please?
I'm just wondering what the color formats are for the items for the paint and I mean, it's a beautiful plan. I love your landscaping, but I don't know what the color schema is that you're utilizing for your buildings.
I don't understand the question because we submitted detailed colored plans. So I apologize. I wouldn't know how to answer that. We've submitted as detailed colored plans as we can submit. Did you not get those, or did the staff not get them, or?
We have 24 pages of documents submitted to us that do include all the
Sure.
landscaping layouts. Everything is in black and white. So I don't know if color was submitted, it's not what was scanned and sent to us. What we have, everything we have is a black and white PDF.
I can pull.
I know we submitted color because we took a lot of time and we were very careful to select certain colors and make sure that the city knew what the colors were. So they've been
Okay.
submitted.
Mr. Fellows is looking right now on his computer to see if he's got the color ones, and if so, he can share screen. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead.
Colors on your, Angie, do you have colors you can put up?
Yes, I'm able to share our images that were previously submitted.
Would you like our architect to share the colors?
Yeah, that'd be great. It's going to take me a few more minutes to get to
Angie, go ahead.
files.
I was just going to ask, aren't these the colors that labeled on the black and white? The colors are Knitting Needles, Grays Harbor, Black Fox. Are those the colors? If you just sort of blow up.
Angie, you're muted, Angie.
Thank you. It's presented now. I'm a visual person, so having the picture helps a lot. Thank you so much.
Right, the Knitting Needle is the gray, the Black Fox is the bottom darker brick color, and then the Grays Harbor is the blue bump outs around the windows. I'll click through the images for you.
Thank you. Back to where we. So any other questions from commissioners? All right, then we do have a recommendation from staff, which will be a motion to recommend to the Common Council approval of the specific development plan for this planned unit development district, subject to the 6 conditions that were identified by staff. Would someone like to make a motion?
Moved.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Cohen. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Commissioner Cronwell. Any further discussion by members of the commission? All right, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries. The specific implementation plan is referred to the Common Council. Thank you, Mr. Dworkin. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you, Angie, for sharing your slides.
You are welcome.
All right, the next item on our agenda, item 3B, is Plan Commission Site Plan Review. So discussion and possible action for a Plan Commission Site Plan Review for the proposal to raise an existing building and install a prairie landscape for the Orthopedic Hospital of Wisconsin. And I will turn it over to staff.
Mayor, this particular project, I believe some of you may be familiar with, others might not be. Essentially, the hospital organization would like to, the building is obsolete. They would like to remove the building and basically have a much smaller parking area. So they'll reduce the impervious surface that's currently out there. And they will plant a prairie that will have paths and short grass and long grasses and all sorts of other components to enhance that particular property.
Okay, and so I do understand there's a reduction in assessed value then because the structure will be gone on that particular property on the corner. But obviously making up for it by putting in green space, which will be a good stormwater.
There will be
Protection.
some, improved parking lot. There'll be some improvements of walking paths and those things, but those certainly won't add up to the same value as the current building. So I would expect that to the next assessment will probably go down at some point in the next year.
Thank you. All right, any questions from members of the commission? Normally, we are approving projects that add value to the gross equalized value of the city. But this is one where this particular building on the corner, for those of you who are newer to the commission, about 3 or 4 years ago, the previous owners came to us and wanted to build a parking ramp so that they could entice somebody to come and rent out that entire building. Apparently in the process, we voted them down on a parking ramp because they weren't at capacity. They couldn't demonstrate a need for it. And I believe since then, the orthopedic hospital has acquired the building and it's either empty or almost empty. So
I believe that the last tenant was the daycare and they've moved
okay,
or in the process of moving.
moving across the street into the Ascension building. Yeah.
Correct, I believe
Yep.
so, yes.
Yeah. So so they brought us a proposal to raise the building and turn it into green space. And wearing my other hat as an MMSD commissioner, it's good for us to be able to trap as much rainwater where it falls. And so if they're going to use essentially rain garden, stormwater management work on this particular site and reduce the impervious surface, that if we're going to give up tax revenue, to me, it seems like that's the right thing to give up tax revenue for. So. All right, so we do have a recommendation from staff. That recommendation would be that we approve the demolition, the new site work, the parking, landscaping, and building improvements, subject to 2 conditions. So could we have a motion then to adopt the staff recommendation?
Moved.
Moved by Alderman or Commissioner Nelson. Sorry. We have a new alderman to my left here. So moved by Commissioner Nelson and seconded by Alderman-elect Bailey. So, all right. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of approving the staff recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is Plan Commission Site Plan Review, Signage and Occupancy for, let's see, Napleton Lexus of Milwaukee at 1433 West Silver Spring Drive, and I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. This particular project is both new construction and renovation, as well as site work on the entire property. So you did see some site work and approvals back in 2020 for the expansion of the parking lot and some fencing and some lighting. They now want to bring that all the way towards the front of the property. And so their architect is here. I'll let him talk a little bit more about the architecture, but there's going to be a link that will connect the main showroom to the previously owned showroom. And then they're going to be rehabbing that smaller showroom with taking down some of the ephes and putting up some metal panels so that 2 buildings start to be more compatible. And then there's some improvements up front, as well as some reconfiguration of parking, lighting, and a number of other items, a little bit more fencing on the south side of the property. So those are all items that are kind of detailed in the report. The architect is here if you have any questions. The only other thing I'd like to spend a bit of time talking about is actually the security gates that they're proposing that are literally beyond the property line in the plans that you have. Right on the property line at each of the entrances, there's 5 entrances. The southern 2, the gates would be a little bit farther back, but the other 3 northern would be right at the property line. And staff is recommending that your approval this evening include the building and all the other items, but not the gates. We have had a conversation with the applicant. You'll see staff's recommending against the gates. The city has spent a lot of time on a lot of our commercial corridors trying to improve them aesthetically, and the gates just wouldn't send quite the right message. There's some solutions, possibly removing some of the parking and putting in some really robust landscaping, and maybe the gate could be hidden by landscaping, and then it's only visible at night when it's closed. But the way the site lays out right now, you're going to see the gate. It's a rolling gate, so it will roll in front of all the cars. So whether it's daytime and the driveway is open, or it's nighttime, you're going to see this 3-foot structure there. So we would recommend that staff and the applicant spend the next couple of weeks trying to work on something and bring back a proposal or option in May to see how that might.
Okay. So we spent as a city about 11 or 12 million dollars completely redoing all of Silver Spring and creating a specific look. So Silver Spring has its own business code, and it does not allow for fencing at the street frontage of any of our businesses along through there. So I appreciate you bringing it forward. We do have a number of car dealerships that for security reasons have requested fencing, but all of the areas they have that are fencing with fenced in with gates are not at the front of the building. So, the Toyota dealership, Heiser Ford, they all have things, Hobbs Honda, any of the areas they have that are fenced in and gated are behind or are at a remote location where they have to actually go get the cars and bring it back to the dealership. So, yeah, that would not be in compliance with what we have approved for the aesthetic look of Silver Spring. However, if they wanted to work with fencing on the property line, behind or, in areas that aren't visibly out at the street front, I wouldn't personally see a problem with that, and that would be in compliance with our Silver Spring ordinances. So, is there somebody here from Lexus to make a presentation? Yep. So as you're speaking, do you see when I'm talking right now, this red light is coming on? Look at me for a second. If you see when I'm talking, the red light comes on, that means they can hear you on the Zoom. If the red light goes off, when you're talking, then they won't be able to hear you. So it is working. So.
Yeah, my name is Fred. I'm an architect representing Napleton Automotive, not Lexus. But we have been working with Lexus for approval on this design. And the idea is that we're, Napleton several years ago purchased what was the Infinity store. And before that, interestingly, a floral shop. But we want to use that as a pre-owned, certified pre-owned Lexus dealership. And so one aspect, as John mentioned, is to bring that up to the current Lexus design standards, both inside and outside. So no changes really to the functionality of that building. It's really not changing the square footage. It's just new facade, new interiors, Lexus standard interiors.
So is this building going to, you just did in the last year and a half or so, the facade, you completely revamped the new car showroom. I'm assuming this is going to be consistent with that.
Same ACM panels, the same vertical, dark vertical, the lighter shade horizontals, carrying that language all the way across, treating it as more of the campus or a unified look. So we're calling it the connector, and that's really the big move is this canopy that is open air, slips underneath and sort of plays with elevations, and as you can see in the elevation on the rendering, it gives you an idea of what it will look like. And we were here in February and met with Todd Stubbe and a number of others, including the fire marshal and the police, to review issues and concerns. And so it sounds like some of the site security issues that the ownership has is going to be penned, and we'll have to revisit that to see how we can better protect the investment. But they are interested in investing in this. It is a great dealership. Malik is the general manager. He's here with us today too. And he's got a report of the autos that have been stolen. There was recently a police chase through our property, and that's really the crux of the issue is how do we protect this? I mean, we have a number of dealerships. Napleton has 50 some, and we're seeing a huge increase in theft with our cars, and so it's a real concern. So I agree with John's assessment that we can table that for another, because this is a large project, and we want to get moving on it. And I think it's going to be exciting to see it.
Thank you. I'll open it up then to members of the commission with questions or concerns. Commissioner Cohen?
Excuse me. What is the functionality of this structure? Because I'm looking at it open like this right now, and there's another picture in our agenda that shows cars parked underneath it. Is this to connect the building for the weather, or what is the reason for this monstrosity, I would call it?
Well, there are two functions. One of them is to showcase specific cars on the outside, so that we will have some cars parked underneath and they will be lit. And we also have infrared radiant heaters in the lower canopy that will protect or keep people warm as they're walking between these two buildings. So that's the primary. And the secondary is just a visual connection of the buildings so that they seem like one dealership instead of two odd buildings.
There still be rain out?
Correct. Yeah, so there will still be through traffic. And the site plan does show the fire lanes. The fire truck fits comfortably underneath and can circulate through. We'll change the parking layout as it currently is, so that we'll also change some site lighting. But I feel like it's an improvement from what's existing.
Other questions from members of the commission? All right, well, we do have a staff recommendation, which we have motion to approve the site plan, the signage and occupancy. And at this point, we would be tabling any discussion about gates or fencing along the front of the property and coming back to them. So the motion requested by staff then would be that we approve the site plan, signage and occupancy, but that we do not approve any gate or fencing on the front part of the property. And there are 6 conditions that staff have listed. Someone like to make a motion to that effect?
I move that we approve with the 6 conditions.
Okay, so move to adopt with the 6 conditions. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Nelson. So moved by Commissioner Cromwell, second by Commissioner Nelson. Any further discussion? I'll just add, you all did a wonderful job with the new car showroom. It looks much nicer. So I do look forward to seeing this building brought up to that same standard. And I like the design. I like the uniformity of being able to tell that this is one dealership and not, well, that's the Lexus dealership and what's that over there? So I do appreciate the investment as well in the property here in the city. All right, I'll call for a vote then. All those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? 1 no. So Commissioner Cohen is a no. The rest of us are yes. Okay, thank you very much. Next is item 3D, certified survey map. This is a recommendation to the Common Council for a proposed certified survey map to assemble lands into a singular tax parcel for Wisconsin Department of Transportation and Chick-fil-A, 5201 Northport Washington Road. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Fellows.
Eric, this particular item, you'll recall that you last year approved the Chick-fil-A. This particular CSM is to combine the land or that lot with some right of way that is owned by the DOT. The combination of the land from DOT and the main lot will allow for the driveway to be more on center with the intersection, so that the driveway for Chick-fil-A won't be sort of half offside. You'll actually have everybody all lined up in a nice coordinated way. So that's really the purpose of this particular CSM.
Okay. So the Chick-fil-A purchased a little piece of land from the DOT and we're combining it into one certified survey map.
Correct, exactly, yes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I just had to put it in.
That was the short answer.
I had to put it in layman's terms. Not being a city planner or an engineer. So, all right. So we have before us now a certified survey map presented by the DOT and Chick-fil-A to add essentially a little bit to the Chick-fil-A parcel for purposes of aligning their entryway with the stoplight, which we only approved that location for Chick-fil-A because it was one of the only locations they looked at that was at a stoplight. And we know what the traffic is going to be like when they do open. So, all right. So the recommendation from staff would be to recommend to the Common Council the approval of the certified survey map for the tax keys, subject to the payment of the fees. And yeah, subject to the payment of the fees. Can I have a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Bailey, seconded by Commissioner Cohn. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those no. Motion carries.
Abstain.
What, sorry, what?
Abstain.
Oh, and one abstention. So Commissioner Seligman was an abstention. All right, and the final item of new business is item 3E, and this is discussion and possible action for an architectural review for modifications to a previously approved design for the Milwaukee Rug Company at 309 West Silver Spring Drive, and I'll turn it over to staff.
This particular item did, as you mentioned, come before you last year. The building design essentially had a very flat parapet or flat roof line and a very small sign band. As the architect and the construction has occurred on the property, what they'd like to do is have a little bit larger sign area for the store, and they'd like to step the parapet. So it adds a little bit more interest to the project. In your packet, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, it's labeled proposed, and I forgot to share with the screen. So sorry, I'm talking as if you were seeing this. Let me get back to Zoom, sorry.
With so much work being done at Bay Shore, and this is across the street, we've had a number of businesses along those couple blocks there, Silver Spring, that have made significant changes to the fronts of their buildings. One actually was a demolition and a reconstruction. So we've seen a lot of bringing things up to a different standard. In your opinion, is this doing that? Is it taking this older building and adding something to it that brings it up to a different standard?
I think it does. And in fact, if you, on your screen right now, this is the proposed. I think it was, a fine remodel, but I actually do think that having a little bit more sign band area, it's going to give more space around the sign, so it won't seem like the height within space, as well. Having the addition will just add a little bit more interest to the skyline where the building meets the sky.
Okay, thank you. Is there somebody here from the company? Okay. Did you want to add anything to what the Director of Development has stated? Thank you. Appreciate it. Open up then to commission from questions. Any commissioners want to ask questions?
Change the name to Glendale Rug? Change the name to Glendale Rug?
It's funny, we just had the folks from Lexus of Milwaukee North because there's two Lexus dealerships. So yeah, it's funny. We are Glendale, but yeah, most things are named after the region. So, all right, any other questions? All right, so we do have a recommendation from staff that we approve the design changes. So we'd actually already approved the projects. We're just approving the design changes as presented. So would someone like to make a motion to that effect? Moved by Commissioner Cohn. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Nelson. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving, please say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Yep, thank you. Before we adjourn, I did just want to recognize two individuals. Commissioner Cronwell has served on the Plan Commission for 6 years, and her term expires at the end of this month. And so after 6 years, has decided that that's long enough to serve the city. I know that feeling, so, but I want to say a special thank you. You know, Karn and Rob had lived in the city for a while, moved into Milwaukee because Karn had to for work. Then residency was no longer required. She moved back into Glendale, and the second you moved into Glendale, I said, "Hey, I want you on the Plan Commission." So, and you accepted and have been here for 6 years, and I really appreciate your input and participation in the body. So, thank you. Yeah. So, thank you. And on the 25th, the council will be approving new appointments. And currently a member of the Convention and Visitors Bureau Board for another day or two before they hold new elections and change their structure is Sean Story. And Sean will be the next commissioner that will take the seat, 2 seats to my right. So welcome, Sean. All right. So thank you all. We got all of our business done, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn. I guess I should say our next meeting is Tuesday, May 3rd. We are on the first Tuesday again, like we normally are. There's not an election being held in May. So, all right, can I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Commissioner Cronwell, for making that motion. Seconded by Commissioner Cohn. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion. Even a day.